From the Oklahoman newsroom, this is an OSU update. I'm Jenny Carlson. Breaking news on Wednesday morning, Emmanuel Ogbah, the OSU defensive end, saying he is foregoing his final year of eligibility in Stillwater and entering the NFL draft. Kyle Fredrickson joins us on the phone to break down this decision. Kyle, this is a choice that we kind of suspected would be coming. Emmanuel Ogbah participated in senior night activities, so there was a thought that he might be leaning this way. But what did he say about his decision? He made it on Twitter.
Yeah, like you said, not a huge surprise. But in terms of kind of what he said on Twitter and then talking about all the things he was thankful for, one thing that stood out to me is here's a guy who's going to graduate in May. And I think a lot of these juniors who come out and declare for the NFL draft, they're going to leave without their diploma, and really, in a lot of ways, for some of these guys, without a backup plan, should things not go the way that they see it in terms of the draft. Now, Ogbah's not going to have that problem, just from everything that we've seen. It looks like he's a lock to be either a first or a second round pick, just based on, his incredible production this year, his blend of size and speed and aggression off the edge. Seemingly fits a lot of these NFL pass rushing schemes that we've seen. But yeah, really the message that Ogbah had on Twitter, it was pretty long-winded. He had a lot of people to thank, talking about how important this journey has been for him. The academic counselors at OSU, the coaching staff. He talked about wanting to be a proud alum of the university, like so many others have. And have given back and with the strong alumni base that this school has. He talked about being excited to join that. So, for him and thinking about how well he performed this season and where he's projected, it would sure seem like a no-brainer that this would be the right choice for him.
Yeah, it seems like he has percolated up a lot of those mock drafts and the gurus that are out there talking to NFL types. We've seen him as high as 18, 19 in that range among some of the ESPN draft nicks. So that sort of thing puts you into guaranteed money, guaranteed contracts. I mean, that's a lot more sure thing, Kyle, than, we saw as recently as a month or so ago, he was down in the 3 and 4 round range, which is a whole different story, but it sounds like that's probably not the reality anymore.
Yeah, and it's just there's such a high priority on teams that have very physical and lengthy and athletic defensive ends who can rush the passer. We've seen really those types of players, guys like J.J. Watt. Not saying that Ogbah is that caliber, but players like that who can change the dynamic of a defense and really change the dynamic of the team. So I think when you look at what Ogbah brings to the table and how he's able to use his length and his speed to get around defenders, it's going to make a lot of these NFL scouts, kind of drool at his potential moving forward. If he's a guy who can continue to get bigger and stronger and maybe get a little bit, better technically with his hands and some of kind of the minute details that you can really, develop and excel in at the NFL level, he projects to be a guy who's definitely solid. Now, there are quite a few defensive ends ahead of him on the draft boards, most notably a guy like Joey Bosa at Ohio State, who might end up being the #1 pick overall. But Ogbah's certainly in that top echelon of teams. And, before he went to the Sugar Bowl, he talked about, growing up a fan of the New York Giants and watching Michael Strahan and some of those guys. And there's even one projection out there that he could go to the Giants at number 13. So that would certainly be a cool scenario for him should it play out that way.
Kyle, you talk about the way he can impact a defense and impact a game. The Cowboys clearly know that the last couple years, just the impact that he left on OSU on that defense. So now with his departure, where does that leave the Cowboys? I can't imagine that there's any one guy you can point to at this point and say, this is clearly the next Emmanuel Ogbah.
Right, and that's the interesting thing about the situation, because, OSU loses its best player from a year ago, but I don't know that there's a whole lot of panic in terms of the Cowboys being depleted at defensive end, just because it's been a position where they've really built some impressive depth. So, hats off to Joe Bob Clements and Glenn Spencer for really recruiting that area well, being that, they have two guys who are going to be redshirt sophomore next year, and Jarrell Owens and Jordan Brailford, both guys who are 6'3", 250 plus, kind of, what Emmanuel Ogbah looked like early in his career, right as he was about to break out. So some physical, lengthy guys, and who certainly have a lot of potential. Now, whether they can match the production of Ogbah, it seems unlikely. but they really like those guys, and they have a lot of depth. And so, as the Cowboys move forward, they're going to lose Ogbah. They also lose Jimmy Bean off the edge as well. So defensive end's going to be a question mark, but they certainly like the young guys that they have, just based on kind of their physical attributes. And at times we've seen those guys make plays, even as redshirt freshmen, rotating in with that line. So, there's a lot of OSU fans who are going to miss Ogbah and really kind of reminisce on this season, being that, he had those 13 sacks and was the nation's active career leader when he was at OSU these past few games. But, there's a lot to like about this unit as they move into 2016.
Yeah, we'll definitely continue to follow that. And obviously, we'll be talking a lot about Emmanuel Ogbah as the NFL draft approaches. That's not until April 28th, but we'll have more in the coming days on his decision. Be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.